What's up everyone, my name is Michael and welcome to Client Concept. So today I want to quickly chat about one of my bikes, which is this beauty, the BMC Teammachine SLR1. As a little bit of background, I got this bike back then when COVID hit. And I think, as most of you know, getting bikes during that time was kind of difficult because everybody suddenly wanted to have a bike, understandably. And I found this beauty, the BMC Teammachine. Was in stock, was in my size. I mean, maybe a little bit on the higher end of the size spectrum, but it was there. And I figured out that I was able to lease the bike, basically also from my work. So it was kind of an easy decision to go for this. Just to talk about the specs for a minute. It's a full carbon frame. It has a slightly aero design. It has these nicely aerodynamic integrated carbon bottle cages. So you see how their shape kind of like smoothly integrates into the down tube. Also carbon, I think it's carbon. Is it carbon? Maybe it's plastic. I don't know, I'll find out. It has the BMC stem. It was coming with a different handlebar. It was coming with an aluminium handlebar, which I swapped out for my trusty OG Afkin from AliExpress on Aero handlebar here. I put on my favorite Pro Logo Dimension 143 seat post on here. And I think maybe the most interesting part is that it is equipped with the SRAM Force ETAP axis, so wireless shifting. It also came with those carbon wheels, so pretty much it is stock, except the saddle and the handlebar. Not too deep section carbon wheels. I think they're around 30 millimeters deep. So yes, while I think this is a beautiful bike, I really love the paint job. I mean, you've seen my other steel bike project that I did. I also painted it in this kind of like glossy disco paint. So I'm a big fan of that. And there's going to be another bike, the Yoleo R12, which also has this kind of disco paint. That build is coming up soon. Beautiful bike. It rides great. There's nothing I can really complain about. I mean, it is interesting to ride the SRAM system because so far on all my other bikes I'm riding the Shimano system. It is interesting. It's a little bit of a hate-love relationship because I kind of like the simplicity of just going up and down with the switches left and right. So basically, for the ones who don't know how a SRAM wireless system works in comparison to a Shimano system, on the Shimano system you always have two buttons on each of the levers. So the left one normally switches the front derailleur up and down, so you have two buttons there for switching the chain rings, and the right one, which has two buttons to basically shift up and down in your cassette. On the SRAM system it is a little bit different. You only have one button or one kind of shifter per lever, and basically you switch with the left one, you switch into lower gears, and with the right one you switch into higher gears, but mainly only shifting the rear cassette. If you want to switch to a different chainring, you have to click or push both of those buttons at the same time. So it is kind of interesting. It keeps it very straightforward when you're riding. Yeah, if you're riding one-handed because you're, I don't know, for example, you're getting out a gel or something out of your back pocket and you want to, suddenly there's a climb coming up which you didn't see behind the corner and you want to shift into a different gear, you kind of need both hands to do this, depending, of course, in which direction you want to shift. So I want to use this bike now basically just as an example to talk about how important emotions are for me when it comes to cycling. So while I really like this bike and I really like this frame and it rides great, there's nothing really for me to complain about it. But this bike is actually not with me in Berlin. It is with my parents, so more in the area of Frankfurt. This is where I'm having it. And I think that already says a lot about my emotional relationship to this bike. So I'm kind of fine not having it very close to me in Berlin. And yes, I basically just recently realized this, where this might be coming from. So I noticed that the bikes that I like to ride most of the time, which are my steel bikes, or even last year the Yoleo R12, which have been bikes which I have built from the ground up. So I've spent a lot of time with them, putting them together, finding the right components, tweaking them, upgrading them, trying out different parts, and so on and so forth. And that somehow created this connection between me and the bike. It felt like the bike is really mine. It felt like, or it feels like, it is very special. It kind of feels like it's custom. It feels like it is tailored for me. While with this one, as I said, I kept it, most of it I kept stock, except the seat post and the handlebars. The main reason behind this being that, as I said, it is a leased bike, so I don't know if I'm going to keep it after the lease or if I'm going to return it. So obviously didn't want to start now swapping out parts here and there, which will kind of lock me into taking over that bike at the end of the lease. So basically what I just want to highlight with this is, even though I think this is maybe the most expensive bike that I own, it's definitely far away from the bike that gives me the most pleasure, and it's far away from the bike which gets me motivated to get out on a ride, especially when it's maybe dark or cold or rainy outside. My other bikes are motivating me to actually really dress up and get out into stormy or bad weather, while this one somehow doesn't. So just for everybody out there who is maybe a little bit more on a budget, or doesn't have the option or opportunity to actually lease a bike. So this is rather, as I said, an expensive frame, which I was only able to afford because I'm paying off a small monthly rate. Otherwise, I don't think that I would have spent that much money on this bike. So the point I want to make is, while I think a lot of us, or especially me, or definitely me, I was always looking up to those very posh, beautiful 10,000, 15,000 euro bikes, thinking that one day I want to have one of these. And actually it turned out to be the opposite. Not that this is a 10 or 15,000 euro bike, of course, it's not that expensive, but still in comparison to the other bikes that I'm owning, it is double the price or even more compared to some of them. So basically, bottom line, I don't want you to think that your budget might be holding you back, that you can only get into cycling or have fun with cycling if you invest, I don't know, 5,000 euros or dollars or pounds or whatever, or more to get a proper bike that's maybe coming off the shelf. But you can definitely be very happy and have a lot of fun and get very active riding with something that costs way less if you're willing to put in the time to maybe scout the secondhand market a little bit, and to put things together yourself. But I think all this work of putting a bike together yourself actually just adds to the value of the bike and how valuable it feels for you personally. So while I think when I talk to my friends, this bike might be more valuable to them than one of my steel bikes, but for me it's the complete opposite, because I've put so much time into those custom builds that they have a way, way higher value than anything that's coming off the shelf. Even though I just want to make clear that I'm not dissing this bike, I really, really like it. And I'm also not dissing carbon in general. As I said, there is another carbon buildup coming up soon. So I also see the benefit of carbon as well. But yes, it is for me basically stock versus self-made or self-assembled or customized. Last thing I want to do, which might be interesting for some, or maybe for some that are interested in this kind of bike or this kind of frame, is of course the weight. So let's give it a quick weight. I'm gonna use my dog's harness for this. There we go. We're at 7.8 kilograms. It's actually the first time that I weighed this bike, and it turns out to be way lighter than I thought it would be. So yeah, I'd say with that, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, maybe subscribe if you don't, or if you didn't yet. And yeah, otherwise I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Bye.